And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. All right, so here we are now. We've made it to the very beginning. So yesterday, obviously, we observed Adam and Eve as they rebelled against the demands of God, and then in turn were exiled from the garden. So now we're going to go back and look at the origins of the garden itself. As yesterday was it was a very quick story. So quick recap, obviously, Adam and Eve both got kicked out. Started with Eve talking to the serpent, and the serpent convinced her to eat from the tree of good and evil. And after she ate from the tree of good and evil, she convinced Adam to do the same. And then he was awakened. And after he was awakened, he was vulnerable and insecure. And when God saw him vulnerable and insecure, he hid, and then he shrugged the responsibility and blamed Eve, essentially. So here we are now, and God told Eve, basically put some punishments their way, or illuminated what the suffering of their life already has been. And so God tells Eve she's going to bear the pain of childbearing, and she's going to have to protect her child from predator. Meaning the snake is going to bite at their heels and go for her babies, and she's going to have to constantly be at war with the serpent who just convinced her. And so Adam will eternally work to survive. If he wants to eat food, which he needs to eat food, he has to work every day. And then God clothed them, kicked them out, and we're going to see where they go. But first, we need to go back to the garden. We need to go back a little bit to figure out what the garden itself is. And now we are at the very beginning. We're at literally the beginning. And so here's how everything starts. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. So we've got an idea, one of the very, very first ideas. There's a few ideas happening. The first idea is that in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So God was the very first thing, and he created everything. So there's a creator. So that's an idea. And it started off that everything was formless and empty, and it was only God there. There was no form. It was only pure chaos, pure darkness, only darkness, not even light. And then God said, "Let there be light," and then there was light. And then God saw that the light was good, and he separated the light from the darkness. And so the first question that really arises is, why is the light good? As in, what is good about it? Because he does an action right there. He creates everything, which that's an action, obviously, but then he separates the light from the darkness, and he says explicitly that the light was good. So why is the light good? And if the light is good and he had to separate it from the darkness, what does that mean about the darkness? Is the darkness evil, darkness bad? And so what would be good about the light? Well, first off, what is the light? What is the light? Well, they're talking about it in terms of day and night. And so there's a few different ways. There's obviously 1,000 different ways you could perceive this, but the big picture way is that light is order and dark is chaos. So light is the spot where you can see what's happening, you can open your eyes, you can see what's going on. And darkness is where you cannot see what's going on, and so whatever's happening, unless you have night vision, is happening, and it's chaos. And because you are the quote unquote manager, orchestrator, human beings are the things that manage, and they can only see in the light. They don't really have any control over the darkness. So chaos reigns supreme in the darkness. And so the light is good, the darkness is the opposite of good. But separate from the big picture of light being order and darkness being chaos, what does that mean for an individual human being? So we got day, we've got night. Human beings usually operate within the day. What does that mean for a human being to be in the light? Light is, you can think of it as a spotlight, so attention. And so if you are in the light, say at a theater, say you're in a play, if you're the one in the light, you're the one that people are paying attention to. And so when people certainly act different when people are paying attention to them. When people are paying attention, or when there's attention on them, people act different. And so as I was thinking about this idea, and as I kept going over and over it, combing through it, that's where I ended up getting to. That is the, because again, you can look at the big picture, the macro picture, and be like, oh, well, what's happening in the light versus the dark? And it certainly is chaos versus order. That's what's happening. But why is any of that relevant to a human being? And the human beings are what good and evil is even relevant to. So how is, relative to one individual human being, how is the light good and the dark bad? So if you are operating in a way that you believe that you are in the dark, that's going to change the way that you behave. So imagine somebody training for a sport. So imagine somebody who is a basketball player, and it is their goal to go to the NBA. And it is an 18-year-old individual, and what he does is when he's in the gym with his high school team or college team, he's training and he's working hard and he's getting after it. And he always aims to compete, and he wants to be the top individual with effort, and he wants to be the top individual with results, and he wants to be the first one there and the last one to leave and all of that. And so people are watching him, and he's in the light, and he's doing all of that when he's in the light, and he wants the hierarchy to shift to the point where he's at the top of the hierarchy, and he's playing a status game. He believes that to be at the top of the hierarchy, people have to perceive you to be the best, and that's what really matters. And so when that individual's in the light, he is performing. He is performing like humans are watching. He's performing like his parents are watching. He's performing like God is watching. He's performing. But what does that same individual do after practice? What does that same individual do after practice? What does he do once when he goes home? What kind of food does he eat? Does he eat healthy, or does he just eat whatever he wants? And now that the eyes and the attention aren't on him, he still just goes for immediate pleasure and the easy path. So who are you when no one is watching, essentially? Who are you when no one is watching? If you were to take it one step further back, if you put a light on someone, their speech, their actions, their beliefs, it's all brought to a judgment. If you put a light on somebody, the people who are watching them are judging. God is judging, and their internal eye is judging themselves. But again, what about when the spotlight turns off? What are they doing when the spotlight turns off? People do, when the spotlight is on, people do less of what they want and more of what they know that they should. When the spotlight is on, people do less of what they want and more of what they know that they should. When the spotlight is off, people do less of what they know that they should and more of what they want. So that is the difference between the light and the darkness. But that's in regards to an individual day to day. And you can't fake it. So it goes even further down to your beliefs then. So what do you believe? Do you believe in the darkness or do you believe in the light? And some people believe in the darkness in the sense of they think all of this is random. And I think this is the fundamental difference between people, human beings, meaning how people act and whether somebody's spiritually deprived and about to become spiritually bankrupt and depressed and anxious and addicted and all of that, or if they are happy and fulfilled and in heaven. This is the fundamental black and white difference. Some people believe in the darkness, and if you believe in the darkness, you believe that this is all unfortunately random. So the Big Bang happened X amount of years ago, and millions of years ago, or whatever it is, and that was random. The fact that that happened put into motion a series of events, and that specific event was random, and then everything that has coincided after or has come to fruition since that event, that too has been random. And so the Big Bang was random. The fact that I exist and human beings exist is random. The fact that I individually exist is random. And it is all just a temporary 1 in a million chance that any of this would even exist. And so nobody's watching. God is not watching. No divine source is watching. It's random. It's suffering. You would be amiss to not live life however you want. You'd be amiss to not indulge pleasure at every turn and quote unquote YOLO. You only live once. Find all the pleasure that you can possibly find. And some people believe in that. That is the darkness. The beginning of the world began for no reason. We continue to exist randomly and for no reason. And we'll end up ceasing, and everything good, quote unquote good, that we brought into the world, that too will vanish and go away like dust. And so at the end of the day, there isn't actually anything good because everything is just temporary, random, and you should indulge hedonism. That is belief in the darkness. And then some people believe in the light, but it's a lot harder to believe in the light. And it comes down to nihilism versus faith. Nihilist in the sense of nothing is real, nothing matters, all of this is random, hedonism, indulgence, all of that. Faith is something like, I understand what you're saying with all of that. And I do see that there's a lot of randomness involved and a lot of there's a lot of uncertainty, confusion, and essentially fear and vulnerability. So there is all of that, but I do have faith that it's for a reason, that it began for a reason. I don't care if it was the Big Bang or what have you, but the what doesn't so much matter in that situation. What happened that the universe began, that doesn't matter. Why did the universe begin? That does matter. So I do think there's a reason why the universe began. I think there's a reason why we're doing this right now. And I think there's a quote unquote destination. I think there's a plan. And so I don't think you can fake that though. I don't think you can fake these. I think you're going to either be nihilistic or you're going to have faith. There's really not in between. And if you pretend to have faith and you want to have faith and you're afraid and you're basing your faith off of fear and it's not really strong at the foundation, when something happens in your life, you're going and it rocks your faith, you'll fall back into nihilism and then you're a goner. And so you can build upon your faith with good works and strong action. Somebody whose beliefs are dictated by their actions and their actions reinforce their beliefs. And so if the light is good, is dark the opposite of good? Interesting. That's an interesting question. Is if the light is good, is dark the opposite of good? Based on what I'm saying right there, I would say yes, but we'll circle back. Why is the light good? What is good about it? The light is good because why is the light good? The light is good because the light is operating under the will of God and going towards meaning and going towards heaven. And to believe in the darkness and to operate within the darkness is to let everything fall into degeneracy. Everything, if you believe in darkness and you believe in nothing, it's only a matter of time before everything falls into degeneracy. And on an individual scale, I think a lot of people, I think it's like 49.9% of people are in that boat. And I think it's like 50.01% people have faith. So it's constantly teetering and it's putting everybody, it's putting Earth at risk of going spiritually bankrupt. And that's not like economically bankrupt or physically bankrupt. We might never come back if we actually, if it teeters and the world becomes evil, we might never come back. So we have to believe in the light. So that's what that is. All right. So now we're going to go onward. And God said, "Let there be a vault between the waters to separate the water from water." So God made the vault, separated the water under the vault from the water above it. And it was so. God called the vault sky. And there was evening and there was morning, the second day. And God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered to one place, and let dry ground appear." And it was so. God called the dry ground land, and the gathered waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, "Let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants and trees in the land that bear fruit with seed in it." And it was so. The land produced vegetation, plants bearing seed according to their kinds, and trees bearing fruit with seed in it according to their kinds. And God saw that it too was good. And there was evening and there was morning. That was the third day. And God said, "Let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate the dark from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark sacred times, and let days and years, and let them be lights in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth." And it was so. God made two great lights, the greater light to govern the day, and the lesser light was to govern the night. He also made the stars. God set them in the vault of the sky to give light on the earth, to govern the day and the night, and to separate the light from darkness. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning, the fourth day. All right, so a quick pause right here because this is where I went down on that. That's how I got there to begin with, because he's talking about the idea of letting the light govern the day. Let the light govern the day. And so imagine light is consciousness, and consciousness is, there's a spark of divinity in consciousness. And the more you can grow that light, which is consciousness, the closer your relationship to God. And so the more that you can illuminate the light within yourself, the greater the light, or the more that the light can govern your day. And God says here, let there be lights in the vault of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them serve as signs to mark sacred times and days and years. God made two great lights, and the greater light to govern the day, and the lesser light to govern the night. So that's interesting, because the idea there is that the light is that which governs. And so if you are under the spotlight, you should choose to live if you're under a spotlight, you're going to do what you should, what God would want you to do. And because you know what you should do within you, and the only reason why you wouldn't do what you should do is if you have went fully evil and are explicitly rebelling against God. And so why would somebody choose to live in the dark? Why would somebody choose to live in the dark? Why would somebody choose to live in the dark? So the light governs the day, and the lesser light governs the night. It's hard to live in the light, because you are constantly, your mind is working in regards to what you should do. You have to make sacrifices. And so why would somebody choose to live in the dark? To live in the light is, or to live in the dark is, quote unquote, freedom. Meaning you can follow it's at least perceived to be freedom. If you're in the dark, you can literally do whatever you want. But people have free will. People don't have free will in the sense that they think they have free will. And if you get to a point that you could just do whatever you want, that'll very, very quickly deteriorate, and you'll go into your own nature, and you'll go into your animalistic side, and you'll do what's easy rather than what's good. You'll do what's easier rather than what's good. You'll be impulsive. You'll sacrifice the future for the present. Say it again. You'll sacrifice the future for the present. Sacrifice the future for the present. If somebody were to live in the dark, if they were to choose to live in the dark, they're going to continuously sacrifice the future for the present. And so, on the contrary, why would you sacrifice the present for the future? Why would somebody choose to sacrifice the present for the future? The issue is that the moment is here. You're 1,000% certain that the moment is going to continue to be here, because the present moment is here right now. This moment is here right now. So you're not certain of almost anything, but you are certain that the moment is here. And the future may not exist. Your life may end, the world may end, the quote unquote goal thing that you'd want to bring to fruition may not end up being available. So why would you do things in this present moment simply to make the future better? Why would you do favors today to make your future life better? Why would you do favors for your future self? It doesn't make sense, because the individual may not even live. He may not exist. And so that's what people tell themselves. They choose to live in the dark because it's easier. And if you were to continuously sacrifice the present for the future, you would just exist in hell or heaven. But that's harder, and we're not certain if the future even exists, so we choose to sacrifice the future for the present and go into hedonism and indulgence and lust and all of those things. And so furthermore, everything turns to dust. And so God even said that in the last chapter, that Adam will turn to dust, and the heaven above him will turn to dust, and everything will turn to dust. So if everything good that he could even create will eventually deteriorate to nothingness, what would be the point of doing that which is good? Why would you not just do that which is expedient and pleasurable in the present moment? And I think that's I think it's very clear what the right. It's not. It's not that I think I know what the right decision in that situation is, because it's the only decision. But nonetheless, it's hard to make that decision, especially if you don't have an actual light on you, and if you are living in the darkness and you're alone and you are by yourself and nobody's watching you. Why would you work hard? Why would you work hard when no one's watching? I mean, it makes sense as to why you'd work hard when somebody's right there, but why would you make sacrifices when people aren't even watching? Why would you make sacrifices when people aren't even watching? It's a profound question, because the answer is faith. Why would you make sacrifices? It's not clear as to why you would make sacrifices if people aren't watching. It's not clear as to why you would sacrifice the present for the future if you're not even certain that the future would exist. And so the only way that you could possibly get to that place of continual sacrifice and going towards heaven is with faith. And so, to go full circle then, why would somebody choose to live in the light? It's a narrow way. The darkness is broad, the darkness is most of everything, the light is narrow. It's harder, it's continuously harder, it's difficult, nothing about it is certain. And so why would somebody choose to live in the light? Based on everything that we just discussed, based on how difficult it is, and based on how uncertain that any payoff for doing so could even be. Why would somebody deliberately choose to live in the light? It's too rigid, it's difficult. All right, onward. And God said, "Let the water teem with living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the vault of the sky." So God created the great creatures of the sky, and everything which the water teems and that moves about in it according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. God blessed them, said, "Be fruitful, increase in number, and fill the water and the seas, and let the birds increase on the earth." And there was evening and there was morning, and that was the fifth day. And well, now it's the fifth day. And God said, "Let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds, the livestock, the creatures that move along the ground, and the wild animals according to its kind." And it was so. God made the wild animals according to their kinds, the livestock according to their kinds, and all the creatures that move along the ground according to their kinds. And God saw that too was good. Then God said, "Let us make mankind in our image and our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over the livestock and all the world, and all the creatures that move along the ground." All right, so I do want to just highlight one thing very quickly here with what was just said. God said, "Let us make mankind in our image and our likeness, so that they may rule the sea." So that's what he said right in this chapter. And then in the very next chapter, he's talking to Adam, and he says, let's see here. Oh, wait. He says it down here. He says, all right, so keep reading then, because he actually says it right here. "Let us make mankind in our image and our likeness, so they may rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky and the livestock and all the wild animals." So God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. God blessed them and said to them, "Be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, and over every living creature that moves on the ground. I give you seed-bearing plants on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it, they will be yours for food. And to all the beasts of the earth, and all the birds of the sky, and the tree, and the creatures that move along the ground, everything that has the breath of life in it, I give every green plant for food. And so it was, and it was so. God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. So God was talking about how he made Adam in his, or he's going to make human beings in his likeness, and they're going to be from the image of God. But then in the very next chapter, God took the man and put him in the Garden of Eden to work it and take care of it. And God said, "You are free to eat from any tree in the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. For when you eat it, you will certainly die." So God knows good and evil, or maybe he only knows good, but nonetheless, God is trying to create man in his likeness, like he just said, but then he's also saying not to eat from the tree of good and evil. And the serpent saying, if you eat from the tree of good and evil, you'll have the same knowledge as God. And so that's why it seems like all of that was supposed to happen. Like, as in there was a collusion happening, and they were supposed to eat from the tree of good and knowledge. And that is how they gained the full picture of knowledge, the full scope of knowledge, to be made in the likeness of God. And so that's really the story of the beginning. And so hard times create weak men, or strong men rather. Strong men create hard times. Oh, no. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times. Hard times create strong men. So that's the circle. The level of strength that one has is directly relative to their spiritual quotient, meaning how strong they are spiritually. We're on the verge of going spiritually bankrupt. If you understand perspective, then that can help you get wisdom. If you can understand wisdom, you will live in gratitude. And if you live in gratitude, you'll have eternal life. That is where we are missing. We don't have perspective, thus we don't have wisdom, thus we don't have gratitude, thus we don't have eternal life. This is not random. Us being here is not random. There is a purpose, and there is an algorithm, and there's a greater plan. And we get caught up in the suffering of life, and we get mad at God because we are arrogant. And then we think that because we are so intelligent that we know what's good for us, we know what's right and wrong. And then that's not perspective, that's not wisdom. And then rather than be grateful, then we're envious and resentful. And then we're in hell. And so we'll finish off with this. There's a Tesla quote: "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." And so here we have music is divine. And why should someone live in the light rather than the darkness? Why should somebody live in divinity? They shouldn't live in divinity if they don't believe in divinity, but why should they believe in divinity? And so here is a video of the effect of music on beads. This is what order is. This is order. So there's chaos, slight chaos, quite slight chaos, and then there is light, and then things start to dance with the light. You can't hear the divine orchestra if you're an enemy of heaven. You cannot. There is a divine orchestra that constantly plays. Think in terms of frequency, energy, vibration. The light makes those vibrations into a divine dance, a divine orchestra. And if you're living within your lower self, if you are low vibration relative to God, if you are choosing to live in hell, you cannot hear the divine orchestra. If you're an enemy of hell, you cannot hear the divine orchestra. Alrighty, that's all we got. Thanks for watching. Every day. This will be every day. This will be every day. This will always happen every day. Tomorrow we are going to figure out. Tomorrow we're going to look into. We're going to look into the difference between the light and the dark in action. What is the difference between the light and the dark in action?